Before we turn to our audience, I would like to ask you a question, please, about long-term care in Pennsylvania. Long-term care continues to get more expensive, and Pennsylvania spends a large and growing portion of its Medicaid budget on nursing home care. Do you believe there are changes we could make in long-term care system, and should long-term care insurance play a bigger role in paying for long-term care services?
Well, I definitely believe there are changes we can make. One of the advantages that I have running for governor, Allegheny County is the second oldest county in the United States behind Dade in Florida. And we run 4 different nursing homes in Allegheny County that when I took over were losing $10 million. I put together a group of experts in the field from all different organizations and came up with a plan. And we came up with a continuum of care plan for Allegheny County that converted 2 of our buildings to assisted living, to specialty services, to life outreach centers where people can stay in their home longer, that want to stay in their home longer, and if they had a little bit of help, they were able to stay in their home longer, and it helped reduce the cost. It improved the quality of life of the individuals that were able to stay in their home. And we took a $10 million loss, and we now break even, and we provide better services to the elderly population than we were providing just 6 years ago. I believe the state can step back, look at the continuum of care services that we can provide. It's not always about more money. It's about rethinking how we spend the current money to provide the services for the changing population that we have as a state. So having that experience in Allegheny County has really given me the opportunity and the ability to look at the state and say, this can happen and we can change. And long-term care insurance would be a part of that, in that mix of continuum of care changes that we would make.
Thank you. We'll take a question from the audience, please.
My name is Vern, and I'm from Lancaster County. Pension obligations for the Commonwealth and for local school districts are forecast to skyrocket in the next few years, which could severely impact the state budget as well as local property tax rates and the quality of public education. As a governor, how would you propose to address this situation?
Thank you for the question. There's actually 3 big problems facing the next governor. The pension bubble that you're referring to, $1.6 billion with a B, billion dollars in the current budget of one-time revenues that are now gone, and the federal stimulus money could dry up in the first year of the next term for the next governor. All 3 are going to put pressure on the next governor and the next legislature to deal with some tight budgets. But as it relates to the pension bubble, one of the advantages with the pension issue that we will have is that we can look to fix it long term, because we're really talking about an actuarial problem over the next 20 to 30 years of what's happening. There were some agreements made over the years that I think everybody has to live up to those commitments. Obviously, the employees have paid their fair share consistently while they worked, all the way through the years that they worked. The state has to live up to its obligation to fund their side of the deal that was made. And we got to make sure that that money is invested properly and that we preserve the benefits and not let people sort of attack the benefits in good times or in bad times so that it stays healthy going forward. So there are going to be some tough decisions to make. I think there's certain areas that we have to look at to reform state government. I reformed a lot of government in Allegheny County where we eliminated 10 elected offices and consolidated into 4, took 5 911 centers, put them in the 1. We saved $6 million a year. There's a lot of room for improvement and efficiencies in state government, and I'll be looking at that. There's also some room for a revenue that we didn't know about 4 or 5 years ago, and that's coming from the Marcellus Shale. The Marcellus Shale is providing a golden opportunity because of the natural gas fine that's under the state, and the severance tax that would go with that industry will provide significant additional revenues. The important thing is that we provide and we use those revenues the right way. Impact on the communities that are bearing the burden of the construction of this industry, but the additional money will be available to help us balance the budget going forward and to look at the priorities that we want. And if the state is committed to the funding formula for education, which I am, that's the only way you're going to relieve pressure on the property taxes, because if you cut basic education funding at the state level, we all know that just goes down to the school district level. And I'm a county executive that can look you in the eye today and tell you it's been 9 years. We're the only county in Western Pennsylvania that has not raised property taxes in 9 years. I've cut them twice, I froze assessments, and we haven't raised them in 9 years. And we did that by being efficient in county government. So I have a track record. I know it can be done. I'm going to bring what I learned there to the state government and do the same thing.
Electric customers served by PPL recently experienced significant rate increases as a result of the expiration of rate caps. And many more Pennsylvanians will go through the electric rate increases at the end of 2010. Do you believe we should make a change in our electric deregulation law as a result of these rate changes?
The removal of the caps, as you know, came out in phases, and it started in the west, and it's moving across the eastern part of the state now. So I actually experienced the impact of what would happen when the caps came off, and it wasn't a pretty picture. As a matter of fact, it didn't just jeopardize our residential rates, it put a real burden on our manufacturing rates for the jobs that we wanted in the west, and now it's moving across the state. As governor, I will do everything in my power to make sure that this state remains competitive as it relates to electrical rates and utility rates, because it's part of the environment for us to grow economically. We have to be competitive with the states around us, and I would argue more importantly, we have to be competitive with the states in the south and in the west that are always trying to either relocate our jobs or putting aggressive packages together. And we have to be cognizant of the fact that the utility costs are part of the mix when companies evaluate where they want to be. As governor, I put out an energy paper today, as a matter of fact. It's about 15 pages long. It's my 5th policy paper, and I make it very clear in there. I will look at several options if this becomes a problem and the market doesn't produce competitive rates. I would look at putting limits on how much a rate can go up in a particular year as the caps come off. I would look at being able to do bulk purchasing through our local authorities, making sure that we pull our resources together to help drive the costs down, because we're buying at a much larger quantity as opposed to an individual household. There are ways that we can do this. We also had a bill passed a few years ago for some of our companies, and I would look to do the same thing for everybody, and that is to allow customers to enter into long-term contracts with utility companies that would fix the rate of your utilities for a fixed amount of time, so that you would at least have stability, you would know what the rate would be, and you would eliminate any major fluctuations in a given year so you can budget for your expenditures. And the state has the ability and the authority to do that. And as governor, my overall theme would be keeping the rates competitive with the states around us and the states in the country, so that we remain competitive as an economic engine.